Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media. The two hikers made their way up the trail toward the end of the day as the cool of evening settled in. With each hairpin in the trail, they gained in elevation and lost in energy. The investment yielded dividends in a view and majestic scenery. The brush pushed near the trail in spots, decreasing visibility and feeling like an embrace from Mother Nature. The trail had its own character, with thick roots protruding from the ground and rocks that required the hiker's attention to avoid rolling an ankle. With their attention split on trail safety and scenery, the hikers trudged forward into an incident that would change their lives. Rounding a hairpin, they climbed the last few steps before hearing the brush break above the trail. Suddenly, a huge and angry sow grizzly bear emerged from the brush and bounded down the trail, followed by her cub. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Scalp Lock Mountain rises in the Walton area of Glacier National Park, where steep ridges descend toward the middle fork of the Flathead River. The surrounding forest is a dense mosaic of subalpine fir, larch, Engelmann spruce, and mountain hemlock. Huckleberry and beargrass carpet the understory, while clear creeks tumble through rocky ledges and around cascading bends. In August, the park's air carries the faint scent of earth and pine, and daylight fades quickly along the shaded slopes. Large plant-eating animals such as elk, mule deer, and mountain goats roam these valleys, while black and grizzly bears, mountain lions, and coyotes patrol the margins. The country is wild and seldom forgiving. Visitors are reminded that they are only guests in a land ruled by instinct and survival. On the evening of Friday, August 13th, 1999, a 42-year-old man named Bruce Gillis from Philadelphia hiked up the Scalp Lock Trail alone, while 35-year-old Sharon Rose and 43-year-old Mark Sargent were hiking the same route at a different location on their visit from New England. The trail runs about 4 miles in length and winds its way up Scalp Lock Mountain with over a dozen hairpins culminating at the fire lookout. It is a steep climb, but there is much more danger along this trail than the terrain. Each hiker had seen the many warning signs about bears, but only one of 3 packed bear spray, and none carried a firearm. Though separated by distance and time, they would soon be bound together by a rare and unpredictable catastrophe. The Scalp Lock Lookout Trail has long been a known corridor for bear movement. In August of 1999, a sow grizzly with a cub was traveling this area, likely eating berries from the numerous berry bushes. Late that morning, Bruce Gillis was hiking alone when a rustling along the trail drew his attention. As he looked on, a sow grizzly and her cub suddenly appeared on the trail ahead. She charged without hesitation. In a flash of brown fur and muscle, the angry sow swatted Gillis, knocking him to the ground. She vented her fury on him with a series of bites and swats across his shoulders. She bit down on his arms as he screamed and tried to fend off her jaws. After making sure he couldn't threaten her cub, the sow disappeared into the brush, leaving Gillis bleeding, in pain, and dazed. His shouts echoed down the trail, and 2 horse-mounted park maintenance workers found him bleeding but alive. They hoisted him up onto a horse and began the long ride back toward Walton Ranger Station. A little over a mile down the trail, Mark and Sharon were trudging up the trail when they looked up and saw a horrible sight. The sow and her cub were barreling down the trail toward them and would be on them in no time. In a furious attack, the sow mauled both hikers, leaving Mark with deep puncture wounds on his back and claw marks raked into the flesh of his shoulders. Sharon was much more seriously wounded, as the bear tore deeper lacerations and punctures, and injured one of her knees. Now facing a trio of severely frightened and wounded people, the rescuers split up, one continuing with Gillis, the other staying to assist Sargent and Rose. Eventually, all 3 victims were evacuated from the trail and flown to Kalispell Regional Hospital for treatment. The attacks happened within a short span of time and space, a rare chain of encounters that rattled even Glacier's seasoned rangers. The bear, accompanied by her cub, appeared to have been surprised twice in quick succession, reacting defensively in both instances. The National Park Service recorded both incidents as defensive attacks, and were relieved when there were no fatalities, but all resulting in serious injuries. If the maintenance workers hadn't been making their way up to the lookout, this incident may have ended with much more dire consequences. This cluster of incidents underscored Glacier's recurring challenge. Human travel routes often bisect feeding and bedding zones for bears. Late summer berry shortages or high visitor traffic can increase the odds of encounters. The park later reinforced trailhead warnings and temporarily closed parts of the Walton region until rangers confirmed the sow and her cub had moved on. Rangers later closed the Scalplock Trail and conducted a full sweep to ensure no other hikers were in danger. After extensive interviews and scene investigations, the National Park Service decided no efforts would be made to destroy the sow or her cub. The bears were later sighted moving away from the area, healthy and behaving naturally. The victims, all treated and released, credited park personnel and the maintenance workers with saving their lives. In interviews, Bruce Gillis himself expressed no hatred toward the animal, remarking that the bear didn't intend to kill, it just reacted. His forgiveness became symbolic of the delicate balance between people and the wild. As for the motives for the attacks, the sow was clearly reacting defensively on behalf of herself and her cub. There was no cached animal carcass nearby, and the sow didn't linger near the victims, indicating there was no predatory motives in her reactions. She simply wanted to keep her cubs safe. Speaking of cubs, our Cub Cheer membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to episodes, photos, and notes. And the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. At the time of these attacks, Glacier National Park held an estimated 300 to 600 grizzly bears across its more than 1,000 square miles of rugged wilderness, roughly one bear for every 2 square miles of prime habitat. Although this density is among the highest in the lower 48 states, bear attacks remain rare. Most encounters cause no injury, and nearly all aggressive encounters are defensive rather than predatory. Glacier's incident records from the late 20th century show that surprise encounters, especially involving sows and cubs, make up the majority of maulings. After the Scalplock event, the park emphasized the importance of group travel, constant noise-making, and carrying bear spray. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Would the use of bear spray have changed the outcome of this attack? Could the periodic use of an air horn alerted the sow to the hiker's presence? Would the use of a firearm or bear bells have influenced this attack? I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it. The older man knew better than to get too close, but was excited to see the young male black bear approach his camp. Moving back and forth, he searched for a great angle to snap some photos, as the bear seemed to pose for each shot. After a few minutes, the bear disappeared back into the brush near his camp. The man took a break in the fun to send his son the photos and share the curiosity of his visit. Retiring to his tent, his mind buzzed with the details of the bear's behavior and appearance. The following evening, the old man was in his camp when he saw the bear's head pop out of the bushes, just like the day before. Reaching for his cell phone, he snapped some more photos of what appeared to be his new friend. The bear seemed like a camp mascot as it boldly walked toward the man, demonstrating its comfort with his presence. Suddenly, the bear spun and leapt toward the old man. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Sam's throne stands high above the Big Creek Valley, a rock outcrop in the Ozark National Forest of northern Arkansas, where the air smells of soil and pine, and the breeze whistles through bluffs that have witnessed centuries of wind and rain, summer and winter. The region's climate is temperate, with warm summers, crisp autumns, and an endless chorus of cicadas that fade into the chill of October. 3 of the most common trees here The white oak, shortleaf pine, and sweet gum paint the hillsides in gold and scarlet before winter arrives. Among the shrubs, witch hazel, fragrant sumac, and American beautyberry hold their place beneath the canopy, while the forest floor yields clusters of blackberries, huckleberries, and elderberries, which are vital food sources for bears preparing for hibernation. Large plant-eating animals such as white-tailed deer and wild turkeys forage here year-round. They share the forest with predators like coyotes, bobcats, and black bears, the latter growing in number since the state's reintroduction efforts decades ago. The 60-year-old man, whom we'll call Matt, came to vacation at Sam's Throne from Missouri. Matt had come for a brief solo camping trip before the winter sets in. He was experienced in the outdoors, familiar with the peaceful solitude of nights spent alone in the forest and the pop of sap in the campfire. He carried his phone, cooking gear, and a sleeping bag. He didn't have bear spray, and investigators later found no sign of a firearm or a dog among his belongings. It isn't clear if Matt had heard about recent bear problems in the Ozarks. Arkansas once teemed with black bears, earning the nickname the Bear State in the early 19th century. By the mid-1900s, overhunting and habitat loss had nearly wiped them out. In the 1950s and 1960s, wildlife officials began relocating bears from Minnesota and Manitoba into the Ouachita and Ozark Mountains. That reintroduction became one of the most successful wildlife recovery programs in North America. Despite their resurgence, fatal encounters remain extraordinarily rare. Before 2025, Arkansas had not recorded a confirmed bear-caused human death in over 25 years. That long streak ended in September of that year, when 72-year-old Vernon Patton was attacked while spreading gravel on a rural road in Franklin County. Officials described the bear as a 70-pound juvenile that mauled Patton in front of his son before being shot. It was a shocking event one wildlife officer called the first serious attack in decades. No one could have imagined that only a few weeks later, a similarly dire incident would happen soon thereafter. Across the region, biologists have suggested that a combination of factors, poor acorn yields, drought in portions of the Ozarks, and increased recreational use of remote campgrounds may have brought humans and bears into closer contact that fall. Hungry bears, particularly young males recently separated from their mothers, tend to wander long distances searching for food and territory. Such conditions have often preceded bear conflicts elsewhere. He'd set up camp several yards off the main climbing trail, a location that offered both seclusion and a view of the sandstone cliff known as the Throne. He had arrived the last week of September and had sent the photos, snapped the first time the bear visited his camp on Tuesday, September 30th. Having agreed with his son to check in at regular intervals, nobody expected any problems. After a few days, his son hadn't received the agreed-upon check-ins for a day or so, and began to worry. He called the local police department and requested that they perform a welfare check on his father's campsite on Thursday, October 2nd. Authorities reviewed the photos sent to Matt's son. They could see the pictures of the smallish bear near Matt's tent as he held out his camp lantern. The bear was very close to Matt during a few of the photos, and they assembled a search crew to go check on him. Newton County deputies were dispatched to Sam's Throne to perform a welfare check. The campground was eerily quiet. His truck was parked near the site, his tent still pitched, but something was clearly wrong. The area around the camp was torn up, pots and gear scattered. As they searched the ground between Matt's tent, they could see lines scratched into the ground, leading away from the campsite. Fearing these were drag marks, they pressed on and followed the trail. Following the marks, deputies found his body several yards from the campsite, partially covered in leaves and brush. The wounds were extensive, injuries consistent with what wildlife officers would later describe as a large carnivore attack. Near the tent they found the remnants of food packaging and the man's phone, which contained the now fateful images of the bear seen the night before. The photos left little doubt that he'd encountered the animal shortly before his death. Wildlife officers immediately closed the area and began tracking efforts with dogs and placed traps. They believed the animal responsible was a black bear, likely the young male in the photos, possibly drawn by the smell of food or garbage left at the camp. The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission confirmed that the victim's remains were sent to the state crime lab, where autopsy results later confirmed animal mauling as the official cause of death. DNA testing is still being conducted to confirm the individual bear that was involved. Search teams have combed the forest around Sam's throne using hounds and baited traps, though as of the latest reports, the suspect bear had not been captured. Authorities warned nearby residents not to take matters into their own hands, reminding the public that attempting to kill a bear without authorization could lead to greater danger for both people and wildlife. Officials from the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission emphasized that while black bears are typically wary of humans, any animal conditioned to associate people with food can become dangerous. They also pointed to the unusual coincidence of 2 serious bear attacks occurring within a month in the same state, a phenomenon they called highly abnormal. Until the investigation is complete, Sam's Throne Campground and portions of the Ozark National Forest remain closed to visitors. As for the bear's motives in the attack, it wasn't defending a cached animal carcass, as none was found nearby. Given that it had dragged Matt's corpse away from the campsite and cached it beneath sticks, leaves, and dirt, it clearly intended to consume the man at some point. This leaves only a predatory motive as a certainty. It wasn't protecting cubs, given it was a young male. Speaking of cubs, our Cub Tier membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to episodes, photos, and field notes. And the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. With a statewide population of roughly 6,000 black bears, distributed across more than 53,000 square miles, Arkansas averages about 1 bear for every 10 square miles. Most of these animals live deep in the Ozark and Ouachita Mountains, far from human settlements. Bear attacks in the region remain statistically minute, fewer than 1 per decade. However, the back-to-back fatalities in 2025 have prompted wildlife managers to reevaluate seasonal food shortages, camping safety signage, and the availability of bear-resistant trash bins in public campgrounds. Across North America, data show that fatal black bear attacks are disproportionately rare, roughly 1 per year across the entire continent. The odds of being killed by a black bear are estimated at less than 1 in a million. Still, the numbers offer little comfort when the woods you love suddenly feel less like home, especially when attacks are documented near farm ground or on gravel roads like Vernon Patton's attack. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Did this young male black bear attack out of hunger or curiosity? Could drought and acorn failure in the Ozark region have triggered a desperate search for food that pushed the young male toward human areas? Was the hungry bear following its nose to Matt's food storage when it attacked him instead? I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it. The hiker exhaled puffs of fog into the chilly air as he stepped his way along the edge of the timber. Below him, Squirrel Creek babbled its fading flow of fall. Walking past aspen groves, quaking their golden leaves, he was enjoying the peace of the wilderness. Rounding a small rise, the hiker approached a stand of willows below him on the trail. As he passed it, he didn't give any thought to what was about to happen, only enjoying the moment. Suddenly a pop in the timber beside him had him glance up in that direction. The dark blur streaking toward him parted the underbrush with blinding speed, and he knew it was the worst-case scenario. As the animal broke from the brush, he stared into the open jaws of a raging grizzly bear. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Squirrel Creek lies in eastern Idaho's Fremont County, a country of steep ridges, fir and pine forests, and hidden bogs, where the ground stays damp year-round. Untold eons of bitterly cold winters, wet fall and spring seasons, and moderate summers shape the land. Rolling foothills, scattered boulders, and tangles of underbrush make every turn unpredictable. In October, the weather there can turn in a heartbeat. One moment it's bright and warm, the next it's spitting sleet from foreboding dark skies. This region hosts forests of Douglas firs and lodgepole pines beside quaking aspen stands, while shrubs like snowberry, elderberry, and serviceberry crowd the lower slopes. In good years, the hillsides are heavy with fruit, drawing both birds and bears to dine on their delectable fruits. White-tailed deer, moose, and elk move through the same corridors, nibbling and grazing their way cautiously. Predators like bobcats, coyotes, cougars, wolves, black bears, and grizzly bears prowl these hillsides, making each step and bend in the trail risky and possibly dangerous. On Tuesday, September 30th, 2025, a hiker whom we'll call Kevin was enjoying Squirrel Creek by himself. Sources do not indicate if he carried a firearm or bear spray, so he likely carried neither self-defense item. It is likely he was carrying a day pack with little equipment, as his planned route was along the south rim of Squirrel Creek and wasn't supposed to be an overnight camping trip. Idaho Fish and Game officers have noted that autumn brings the highest chance of contact with bears. Bears are desperate to eat before hibernation and cover great distances searching for food. They can appear in places they haven't been seen in months. Human recreation has also increased, especially during the mild fall weather, when hikers, hunters, and photographers flood the trails. Add a hungry bear to that mix, and the odds of a close-range encounter increase sharply. Squirrel Creek lies about 13 miles due east of Ashton, Idaho, and about 7 miles southwest of the boundary of Yellowstone National Park. Farmland abruptly stops here and gives way to expansive stretches of wilderness. It is a relatively flat trail with a gentle slope to the slow-moving creek lined with willow and alder bushes. In spots, visibility can fall to only a few yards, creating the possibility for close-range surprise encounters. As Kevin made his way along the trail, he heard a noise that he knew could only be caused by a few animals in these woods. Moose, elk, and grizzly bears are the three largest animals that roam the forests and have enough power to pop timber so loudly. As he glanced in the direction of the noise, he could only see a dark-colored blur moving rapidly through the brush. He'd likely hoped to see a spooked moose fleeing, but was terrified when an angry and powerful grizzly bear thundered from the brush toward him. The bear covered the few yards separating them so fast that Kevin had no time to react. He likely screamed or tried to seek protection behind a tree, but whatever he tried, the bear closed in on him before he could complete it. As the bear approached him, it reached out with one paw and slapped him on the shoulder, causing him to turn away from the animal. With a quick snap of its jaws, it bit Kevin on the keister, leaving his buttocks with 4 large puncture wounds. It wasn't a prolonged attack. The bear didn't circle back or pursue him further. Just as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished into the timber, leaving only the echo of crashing brush behind. Kevin was shaken and bleeding, but alive. After catching his breath, he began the long walk back toward the trailhead, likely in shock, following such an experience. When he finally reached safety, he sought medical attention for what authorities later described as moderate injuries consistent with a bear bite. Wildlife officials who inspected the site concluded that the encounter had all the signs of a defensive charge, a startled bear reacting at close range, rather than an intentional predatory attack. The grizzly was likely napping in the brush when Kevin walked upon it, eliciting its protective and defensive instincts. The bear wasn't reportedly protecting a cached animal carcass, and there is no report of cubs in the area. Speaking of cubs, our Cub Tier membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to episodes, photos, and field notes. And the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. Due to the brevity and nature of the attack, Idaho Fish and Game officers declined to pursue the bear further. The bear will not be killed for its involvement in the incident. Had the bear stalked or claimed Kevin's body after killing him, the grizzly would certainly have been sought and shot for the protection of the public. Instead, the agency focused on public safety messaging. Signs were posted along the creek and nearby recreation areas, warning hikers to make noise, travel in groups, and carry bear spray within quick reach. Officers emphasized that sudden encounters are most likely to occur in thick cover and along stream corridors where food and water concentrate wildlife. Residents and hunters were reminded to store meat, garbage, and food securely, since bears accustomed to human smells can lose their natural fear. The message was simple but firm. Coexistence in bear country requires respect and preparedness. Idaho's grizzly bear population is estimated to be between 80 and 100 grizzly bears over its 83,577 square miles, leading to a bear density statewide of 1 grizzly bear for every 835 square miles. This statistic makes grizzlies seem non-existent in the state, but the reality of the situation is that grizzlies are concentrated in prime habitats in the eastern part of the state near Yellowstone and regions in the north near Glacier National Park. In these areas, grizzly bear densities are much higher than the rest of the state. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Do you think the grizzly's actions were limited after it realized the hiker was a human? Did the bear's actions warrant its removal from the local grizzly bear population, or should it be allowed to keep its life? Would bear spray or a firearm have prevented this attack, or could either of them have made it worse? I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it. Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.